Cheryl Twomey, our friend Cheryl, is next. Cheryl, good to see you. How are you? Always appreciate all the kind thoughts. Thoughts on the surprising plot twist of George Takei not approving of Hikaru Sulu being gay in the new movie? Do you think he's correct that it wouldn't fit Roddenberry's vision, or do you think his position is unsound? Well, first of all, I think it's incredibly disrespectful to that actor. I don't know his name. The guy who plays the new Sulu, who is really kind of a cool character. I think it's incredibly disrespectful to tell him after 2 movies, I don't know if he got the message before the 3rd movie, but basically after you've done 2 movies, maybe even 3, and you say, oh, guess what? Your character is gay. You could have said, guess what? Your character is a Wiccan. And an actor would have a perfect right to say, well, it would have been nice if you told me that while I was developing the character. Now that I've got 6 hours of Sulu on film, now find out that he's gay. So there's, just in terms of the unprofessionalism of it towards an actor, that's a one level. I think, though, look, I don't think there's anything question about it. The guy who's playing Sulu doesn't want Sulu to be gay because he's not gay. And he sees that this is a political ploy that's got nothing to do with the character. It's got nothing to do with any of the story arcs they're going to develop. It's a sort of it's virtue signaling, right? It's virtue signaling. It's like the guy who played Sulu is actually gay, so we're going to make Sulu gay to show everybody how progressive we are and how open-minded. Well, so Sulu's got a relationship with a man now, and they've got a kid together. Great. Okay. What does that say about Sulu the father, who's gone off on a 5-year mission, and presumably left his partner and his kids at home? It's just stupid. It's stupid. It's not as stupid as making the Ghostbusters female, but it's almost that stupid. And it's done for the same reason, by the way. They spent a lot of money on this Ghostbusters. It's a pre-flopped show. It's one of these movies that have been pre-flopped. I think it's going to be a gigantic flop. And the reason it's going to be a flop is because chicks can't carry that particular kind of fraternity bathroom humor. I don't buy it. Nobody buys it. Nobody believes it. Women don't hang out that way. And women don't tinker in the garage and come up with plasma cannons. I'm not going to say, I was about to say I'm not going to say that never happens, but it never happens. Doesn't mean women can't be good scientists, and it doesn't mean women can't be good engineers, but that kind of thing, that kind of boyish kind of wasting your time, we're going to build a protoplasm trap. It's 1 in 100 females maybe are females. I keep saying I mentioned this before. I guess that's just a product of doing 124 shows. I should get out of the habit of doing that and just take it as read that I'm going to have to repeat some of these things, obviously. But ladies, if you're looking for eligible men, you need to hang around airports and look for pilots. And gentlemen, if you're interested in meeting eligible ladies, you need to go to equestrian centers and watch the horsewomen, the equestrian events. Because the male population of pilots, I think, is 93%, and I'll bet you it's very much that way in the inverse for any of these equestrian events. And both of you are looking for trouble. Pilots are cantankerous people who don't know how to express emotion. They've got these positions that they've been dug into, and they won't budge no matter what. And you can sit there and watch 2 men in their 80s talk about whether or not it's smart to run lean of peak in terms of the mixture of your carburetor, your fuel and air mixture. And one guy will say it's better to run lean of peak, and another guy will say it's worse. And they've been arguing about this for 40 years, and neither of them has budged. This is why my favorite joke is, what do pilots use for birth control? And the answer is their personalities. So even while there's a lot of men there, ladies, like they say about Alaska, the odds are good, but the goods are odd. And gentlemen, the same thing's true for equestrian events, by the way. It's a different kind of thing. I think a lot of pilots are not terribly great life partners because I think they tend to be so independent and so... What's the thing I like about them? What's the thing I like about me? And it's just like, don't tell me what to do. That doesn't necessarily make a very good husband. And conversely, guys, if you decide to go to the equestrian events, you're going to meet women who are very driven, and many of them are just strikingly good looking. They're all pretty much fit. You know, you have to be if you're going to be jumping this giant beast across, you know, all over these poles and things. But my experience with the women in equestrian events, I don't mean to make any enemies here, because if you're into equestrian events and you're watching a show, I'm obviously not talking about you. But my experience with them is they're very neurotic, extremely driven, very harsh, and very, very, very severe when it comes to this kind of thing. I've seen a couple of women that I knew just turn into, you know, killbots when they're in that competition. So anyway, so look, it's not fair to make Sulu gay. It's not fair, and it's not fair to make Artemis Gordon, James West on the Wild Wild West. It's not fair to make him black. It's not fair. It's not a question of they're stealing our culture. It just, I stopped believing in it. You could barely convince me, if those of you who don't know the Wild Wild West, you're really missing out. You could convince me that there were two extraordinary Secret Service agents who led this extraordinary life in the West, two men who had been soldiers in the war and now were gunslingers and had all the physical skills and all the rest of it, but you cannot convince me that one of those guys is black. I just don't believe it. And I know Artemis Gordon. If you'd started off with a whole new story, I'd be fine with that. I wouldn't care. I saw Hateful Eight, which I was prepared to despise. I thought it was terrific. I thought it was just terrific. And you've got Sam Jackson in there, you know, and you've got Black Cowboys. Fine, that's fine. That's great. I didn't have any trouble with that at all. I bought the whole thing. But don't tell me that somebody I've grown up with is now this. Don't tell me. And by the way, it's so interesting to me. It's a little ironic because I remember being a kid watching Star Trek and remember thinking there's something odd about Sulu. I can't put my finger on it, but there's something odd about the guy. And then I realized you go back and look at original series Star Trek episodes, the 72 classics, the 72 episodes of Star Trek, the original Star Trek, and you will see that George Takei is wearing so much eyeshadow that it's absolutely shocking. It's just shocking. He's got this silver shiny gray eyeshadow everywhere. I mean, it's if you go looking for it, it will blow your mind. And I thought, well, is that just what they're doing with the makeup department? No, Bones doesn't have that kind of eyeshadow, and neither does Kirk, and neither does Spock. None of them. But George Takei has just gobs of makeup on. He's practically weeping mascara, for God's sakes. I thought there was something wrong with that character. Never liked the Star Trek Sulu. I never thought he was much of anything. I had no idea it was gay. It didn't matter to me. It's not that he came off gay. He just came off as, you know, it's a little, you know, the thing with Sulu, since we dove into the nerdgasm that is the studio here, as you can see, the Gorn captain is behind me, and you can't see over there on that wall is James Kirk making his cannon out of bamboo, which is the greatest moment in the history of Western civilization, when the big brain individual from the West decides that he's going to kill this reptile monster, and he can't do it with physical strength, so I'll have to find what I need to make gunpowder and a cannon. Dan FP1 says, Wild Wild West is canceled despite great ratings. Know why? ? I don't know why. I hope I'll be able to glance over and catch the answer. So this kind of thing where you're just going to go around and it's kind of like it's like these god awful Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull thing, or the second set of Star Wars movies. They're just so awful, and they're claiming to be the stuff that you grew up with, and it's just not right. And so I think the new Sulu, on the other hand, is terrific. I like the new Star Trek movies very much. I didn't think I would, but I like them very much. And the new Sulu is like, wow, this guy kicks ass. He's the kind of guy I would trust to see in the chair. And I never felt, that's it too. You know, that's really what it comes down to, honestly. When the original series Sulu, when George Takei's Sulu was sitting in the chair, I said, we're in trouble. And when this Sulu, the new Sulu, is sitting in the chair, I said, this guy's going to kick ass. He's just different. He's much tougher. He's much more masculine. If I was the actor, I'd be pissed off too. Because again, it's social engineering, right? It's trying to tell you something. that while it may conceivably be true and may happen once in 100,000 cases, is just as a rule is not true, but you're going to get it beaten into your head. I didn't quite get why the Wild Wild West thing. Maybe you can tell me after the show ends. I just missed it. Scroll past me. So anyway, you know, you're being told these things, and when you get to Sulu, you've got the new Sulu, tough, real masculine guy, and he's no nonsense, and you don't mess around with him. He's almost antithesis of what the TV Sulu was. And now all of a sudden you're going to find out this guy's gay. Are there gay men like this? I suppose, but most of them aren't like that. It's not. It's just reality, right? I mean, it's just reality. Most gay men are not like that. You can. I'm sure if you scour the country and you have 300 million people, you're gonna have a percentage of them are gay, and I'm sure among that gay population, you can find a couple of them who would make pretty good Navy SEALs. But seriously, it's not the way to bet. Takei, to his credit, was insulted by this. So somebody says it's the actor who wanted to turn him gay, not George Takei. It's absolutely true that George Takei did not only not want to turn the character gay, but he actually opposed it. But I don't think it was the actor the new Sulu actor who wanted to make him gay. I think it was the producers. I'm quite sure it was. They just, came in and said, we're gonna show something. We're gonna inclusive. Now look, Roddenberry, to his credit, the entire Bridge of the Enterprise was really shocking in 1966, 65, 66, when you have a black woman who's not a housemaid, and you've got a Japanese character 20 years after World War II, and a Russian character in the middle of the Cold War, and it was breaking some barriers, and I'm sure that Roddenberry thought about having a gay character, but certainly not going to happen in the 60s. And here's the thing, right? This is the thing. If they want to introduce a gay character who's a kick-ass character, then introduce a gay character. You don't have to go back and do this like this. It's I don't know. It's crazy. Yeah, and Simon Pegg, Dan points out, Simon Pegg probably was a big part of that too. What was it? One question just went by. I just really. Oh, see, yes, Simon Pegg wanted a gay Sulu. I buy that completely. He's going to make a statement on how progressive he is, and so on. And there may in fact be people like that. And here's the comment I wanted to go to. Where'd it go? Yeah, Scabies 104. You want to get? I try to get the names right whenever I can. Said Milo Yiannopoulos as a Navy SEAL. So this is exactly the point I'm trying to make. This is exactly precisely the point I'm trying to make. I admire Milo enormously. Enormously. I think he's probably the most effective single piece on the board for our side, because Milo shatters so many of the preconceptions. And this whole war is about preconceptions, about them building kind of a cyst around us and convincing people what we are based on what they tell them we are. And Milo just goes in there and destroys it. And so does Alfonso Rachel. But I can see Alfonso Rachel being a SEAL, and I cannot see Milo being a SEAL. And this is not in any way a sense of disrespect to Milo. Milo goes out there, and what he does requires genuine physical courage. I've seen these people get so hyped and violent around him. I've seen people come up, Black Lives Matter activists rush the stage, and we're standing right in front of him and just basically threaten to knock his head off, and to go out and have that happen to you and then to keep doing it, that's actual courage. I'm not trying to say that homosexuals don't have courage. Of course they have courage. But there's a different kind of expression to it. And Milo is not being courageous by joining the SEALs, and Milo's being courageous by being as flamboyant as he can possibly be in the service of freedom, He's fabulous for freedom, and he's very effective at it. So this is all I want, right? I just want some kind of reflection of reality. I just want something I can believe. And back to the Ghostbusters thing again, I do not believe it for a second. Not only do I not believe that the women would be doing this in the real world, That's the whole take you out of the movie. No, I just don't believe it. I'm sorry. But even much more importantly than that, because I'll believe just about anything in a movie if it's well written enough. Much more important than that, I've never seen women carry that kind of comedy. They just don't talk and act that way. You can't imagine one of these women say, I can imagine them saying the line, I can't imagine having the same effect. When Bill Murray at the end of that Ghostbusters movie, you know, and hell is literally broken loose, and demons are flying out of there, and these guys are back on their heels and so on. And he gets up and he says, let's show this prehistoric bitch how we do things downtown. I thought, man, the audience came out of their chairs for that. They came out of their chairs for that. They came out of their chairs when Indiana Jones shot the guy with the sword. They leapt out of their chairs. That was the kind of reaction they had. Let's show this prehistoric bitch how we do things downtown. That doesn't sound right coming from a woman. It just doesn't. It's not to say women can't do comedy, needless to say, and it's not to say so many people just go right to the opposite extreme. That's not to say that women don't have friendships. Sex in the City ran forever, and I never saw a single episode of it, but it was a successful show because it was a believable show. And that kind of believability is it. And that's what made the first Ghostbusters work, was the cast of the first Ghostbusters was made up of people who were obviously on some level children, you know. Bill Murray is like the ultimate frat boy. He never is ever going to not be the really cool frat kid. Bill Murray in Ghostbusters is really the same character, honestly, as the Bill Murray in Meatballs. He's just kind of a really bright, smart-ass, cynical guy who's just making fun of people, and you know, and he's just a wiseacre. But we will have to learn our lessons, you see. And so Ghostbusters is here to show us that women can do anything that men can do, including going after ghosts and hunting ghosts, all four of them. It's going to be a catastrophe. It'd be as much of a catastrophe as making Sex in the City with, you know, Clint Eastwood and Robert Conrad and Powers Booth and Al Pacino. It just doesn't work. The humor just doesn't work, in my humble opinion. Anyway, that's that. What are we doing on time here? We're still good. So anyway, moving on.